got the second highest grade in the 7th grade science fair. It was the first time I ever achieved anything outside of success in school besides gym class, and it was because I got to build something with my own 2 hands. And I was like, wow, I'm actually good at something besides sports. And it was because I was passionate about it. Well, I'm passionate about turtles, I'm passionate about nature, I'm passionate about people and success. And when I talk to kids and I say, just because you get good, great. If you get good grades and you're a good student, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't, there is alternative perceptions and paths that you can take.
From the studio of Rule 29, this is Design Of. I'm Willis Francis.
And I'm Justin Ahrens. So, Wills, we're here. We're looking out the window. Tell me what the scene you're seeing right now.
So I'm seeing a feeding frenzy of koi goldfish and a bunch of ducks, and our guest is throwing. What is he throwing?
Well, like food for
morsels.
The ducks and yeah.
So we are standing second floor, overlooking the largest man-made pond in the state, the nation, the world, perhaps?
Well, I think there's probably bigger ponds, but we're actually standing up in his, it's almost like a sort of treehouse cave office overlooking the pond. And right now I'm looking at a couple waterfalls, tons of koi and duck kind of doing their thing. Over there where there's like you see that black spot in there? That's a cave you can swim to. So it's quite an extraordinary office and space. And we'll see if we can capture his attention for a few minutes as he comes up here. As he's social mediaing right now.
Didn't record.
All right, we're live. You ready?
Yeah, dude.
And we're here today with none other than
Greg Wittstock, better known as the Pond Guy, founder and CEO of Aquascape.
And if you're wondering how someone gets a title like the Pond Guy,
well, it represents a lot. It came from my customers who would mostly lovingly refer to me as that pond guy. So I would show up at someone's house and I would hear the wife yell to the husband or the kids yell to the parents, "Hey, the pond guy's here." So I was the pond guy by the very nature of my work, which is building decorative water features that I began as a hobbyist in 1982 as a 12-year-old kid. And as a career, or as a summer job, I should say, as a junior in college. Together, that's how I became the pond guy. Hobbyist turned professional.
I don't think I'd heard that story, so it just kind of naturally came out of that moment.
You know, what was interesting was the second date I ever had with Carla, my wife. I told her, "Hey, this is what I do. People call me the pond guy." She's like, "What? What's a pond guy?" Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Hey, I got this appointment, and before I pick you up for dinner," she goes, "Well, I wouldn't mind going with you. I got off." So we went and rung the doorbell, and kid answered the door, and just like I said, "Mom, the pond guy's here." And she's like, "You really are the pond guy?" "Yes, I really am the pond guy." When I was a kid, I grew up outside of Philadelphia in a very beautiful place. It was the New Jersey Pine Barrens. It was outside Cherry Hill, about 30 minutes outside Philly, so 30 minutes east of Philadelphia. And I grew up on a lake, and there was 1,300 people in the town of Medford Lakes that I grew up in, and there was 26 beaches.
Wow.
So it was, and half the people lived in log cabin homes. It was in the Pine Barrens. And my Huckleberry Finn existence was catching turtles, fish, and frogs every day and playing sports. I hadn't discovered girls yet. And it was a pretty idyllic childhood. And then one day my dad came home and said we were moving the family to Wheaton, the flat barren cornfields of Wheaton, Illinois, with a corporate transfer. My parents tell me the first thing I said was, "You expect me to give up the Sixers and the Eagles and the Phillies for the Bears and the Bulls and the Cubs?" And the '85 Bears, I became a full-blooded Chicago fan.
Yeah, I'm sure most of us did.
My parents promised me I could bring 11 of my pet turtles with me, so I loaded up 11 of the pet turtles in the bottom drawer from the refrigerator, put some water in there, and they sloshed 16 hours across country. And the second day I was living in Wheaton, I went in the backyard and started digging my very first pond. I lived on a lake. I didn't need a pond. I had buckets and
so hold on,
tanks and stuff.
let me stop you really quick. So you had turtles in the refrigerator?
The bottom drawer of the refrigerator, I put it in the back of the station wagon, put some water in it, and they sloshed across, halfway across the country.
Now, what did your dad do then?
My dad was an engineer, so he worked for Union Carbide Corporation. So he got a corporate transfer. My mom was a school teacher, and my dad's hobby too was aquariums, like myself, and so he helped me build that first pond. We used concrete. That concrete cracked. I spent 2 years trying to rebuild it. My pond turned green because I didn't have the right filters. All the filters were made for kind of hobbyist type of stuff. We're not a big pond like I had built. And then my prize turtles even migrated away. And that was the beginning of my odyssey of water features, because every year, literally every season, summer, I'd rip it out and rebuild it. Wow. And after
give me some idea of scale, like as your first pond.
My first pond was 11 foot by 16 foot. It was 2 feet deep. And
big pond.
Yeah, it was pretty big, but I had a lot of turtles, and I had a strong back, and actually the strong back is kind of part of the story. So after 7 years of ripping it out and rebuilding it, neighbors, friends, relatives would come over and go, "This is beautiful." And then one day I was literally working in my pond in the backyard like I did for every summer, and he delivered a package to the backyard, the UPS guy, and he goes, "This is beautiful. I'd love to own one of these." And I thought, man, there's got to be a business here. And so I remember telling my mom and my dad I wanted to start a business building ponds, and all I needed was a strong back, which I already had, a wheelbarrow and a shovel. And that Christmas I got a wheelbarrow and a shovel beneath the Christmas tree. And
how cool is that?
The month I turned 21, I started Aquascape to design and build backyard water features, the same thing that I had done for myself for my turtles.
Wow. So your parents were behind you the whole way?
Yes, my dad was an engineer, but he was a hobbyist as well with aquariums and stuff. My mom was a very astute businesswoman. She had her own business by this time. She was a corporate consultant, and so they were very supportive of me. And I lived at home, worked out of the garage, and literally drove a free trailer that I got from the side of the road and behind the family's Buick LeSabre. built 5 ponds. Had my staff consisted of a couple guys I played football with in high school that I would hire for day labor. They weren't on my payroll all the time.
What year is this about?
This is 1991.
Okay.
So I was 21, just turned 21, and I built 5 ponds my first season, and then 12 my second. And so on August 2nd of 1992, though, my second season, I had done 17 total ponds, and I had sent the previous year a letter with some pictures and a business card to the Chicago Tribune, to the gardening editor. Never heard anything from the gardening editor, but I did hear from a freelance writer who proposed a story for the Tempo section.
Oh yeah, I love the Tempo section.
Yes, and it went out in 700. Jan Golden Pond, young landscape artist, Greg Wittstock, 22 at the time, builds backyard habitats for fish and plants. And it was a front page spread, went out to 700,000 people, and my phone literally blew up. It was the day my life really changed. It was August 2nd, 1992, because I had hundreds of people from that one article wanting me to come and give them a bid in their backyard.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'll never forget the very first, that was August 2nd, 1992 was a Sunday, and then on the following Saturday I had 8 design consultations.
Wow.
Guess how many water features I ended up selling?
8.
So at the end of the day, I came home. My mom, my dad, and my sister were sitting at the kitchen table. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out $36,000 in deposit checks.
Wow.
So my fun little summertime gig all of a sudden became my job. I was taking 6 months off to build ponds, 6 months on to go to school. My dad.
Now, really quick, let me just ask this question. So the first year and the second year, were you profitable, or was this just kind of like college money?
Yeah,
or?
no, I was highly profitable because the first year I did 5 water features, $21,000 in sales, and I had basically no overhead. I had day laborers. I worked out of my parents' house, and I had a free trailer.
Right.
So I cleared about
and a sweet Buick.
Yeah, Buick LeSabre. I cleared about $11,000, bought a Nissan hardbody pickup truck, and came back the next year, was also profitable because I didn't have a lot of overhead, worked out of the home. And then that's when things really took off, and that's when I rented my first building, and I hired my first full-time foreman, a guy that I went to high school with.
Now let's talk about this. Like, you didn't have business experience. I mean, you had entrepreneurial experience by doing this, but how did it feel? Because you more than doubled, tripled. Right. And I know you said your mom had some business background. Like, how How did you manage all of that? How did you...
Energy. And, the bottom line here is that I made as many mistakes as I made good choices, but I had so much growth and I had so much opportunities that, I didn't know what I was doing, but I faked it till I made it, and I knew how to build ponds. I didn't know how to run a business. Didn't know how to deal with employees, didn't know how to deal with taxes and all that other stuff, but I hired people. So I got an outside accountant that helped me with the books. I went to the county and legitimized my business by incorporating.
So you backfilled your weaknesses.
I just figured it out. Yeah, I didn't come in I didn't write a business plan, none of that stuff. At least in the beginning, I just did it and figured it out as I went along.
So 92, things go crazy. So how many ponds did you do that season?
Well, remember that I told you that Saturday that I brought 8 jobs sold in one day. That was it. I was set for the season. So I had literally the 12 jobs that I had built up until August 2nd. Then I sold 8 jobs, the week after August 2nd, and I was booked through the rest of the season. So my dad came in and helped me. He was doing consulting work in engineering. He came in and helped manage my first full-time foreman and a couple of laborers that I had, and that was basically. Then I came home the following April when quarters got out at Ohio State. So I would spend 6 months going to school, 6 months not going to school, running the business.
Wow. And that's just for the point of being proper here, the Ohio State University.
The Ohio State University. I loved everything about college except the classes.
Greg certainly does not fit the bill of a Fortune 500 CEO. He was not an enthusiastic student and found school to be more of a hindrance to his budding career.
It's interesting because I should not have graduated college because A, I wasn't a student, and B, I had a thriving business that needed all my attention. But I started it and I was going to finish it. So it took me 6 years to graduate. I paid for the last 2 years. I was making money. My parents agreed to pay for the first 4. So I graduated. It took me 6 years, and I remember I wasn't going to go back to my graduation. Whatever. I'm already, back in school. I finished my last class at College of DuPage, remedial math, and I ended up. My mom's like, "You have to do it," and of course she was right. And so I flew back and I graduated and walked through, did the ceremony. And I remember looking at I remember as soon as they handed me I walked across the stage and I looked in because I thought for sure there was a class that I missed or parking tickets that I owed or something. But I managed to graduate with a 2.0 GPA, and I said, "Darn! I studied 0.1% too hard."
Greg and his father shared a complicated relationship for most of his life, and that relationship was often tested on matters of managing a pond building business.
Well, he was at first an employee, but then we became partners. Really, I wouldn't even say an employee. He was my dad that helped me out, and really the reality was that he had taken an early retirement. He was just doing consulting work, and I was so busy with my thing that he just kind of segued full-time into helping me. Which was an interesting dynamic because my dad is a master's degree engineer and I'm a crazy wild entrepreneur. So it was we were very different. I would say black, he would say white. I was the gas pedal, he was the brake. The reality is a company needs both skill sets, but I don't know if I had the maturity at my age to understand that, and I don't know if my dad had the faith and trust in me at his age to let go of the reins a little bit. So we worked together for 3 years, separated. He ended up becoming my very first competitor in the marketplace because he wanted to do things a little different than I wanted to do things.
Now, let me ask you just, and you don't have to answer this if you don't, but was it amicable? It feels like that would be tough. You know, was it strained or?
Well, it was very strained. It was, he wanted to do things his way. I wanted to do things my way. And so he went off and tried to do things his way, and I continued down the path that I was on. And the reality was that, I spent 9 years competing with my dad and basically not talking to my dad. We had a strained relationship for 9 years. In 2006, that healed. I acquired his business that he had created, and he came on board in our team in the role that he should have been, which was an engineering role, at the time. So his skill set was different than my skill set, and like I said, businesses need both skill sets, but it took going apart to get back together again, I guess you should say.
I'm glad that happened.
Everything happens for a reason.
So assuming since you acquired your dad's business that the company was doing well.
Well, the company did very well. We became an Inc. 500 fastest growing privately held company 4 years in a row. So our biggest 5-year growth spurt was 2,221% 5-year growth rate. Built it up to $60 million in sales and 195 teammates. And then 2008 happened.
Yeah.
And 2009 and 2010. And I think God has a sense of humor, because the everything I touched turned to gold for the first 16 years that I had my business. 17 year was 2007, that was flat, and then all of a sudden in 2008 I lost $12 million over the previous year doing exactly the same thing I did. So what changed? The world changed.
Yeah.
Home equity lines of credit went away. The economy went in the tanker, and we ended up having to readjust our business. Unfortunately, make some hard decisions, but we survived. And I 100% believe what didn't kill us made us stronger. And today, even though our sales are now coming back, we're still not at the peak that we were in 2007 when the economy was at its peak. So, but I think we're a much, much better company because of what we went through and the team that I have. And the number one thing I learned through that is the people that work here, how important and valuable they are as assets.
Well, I definitely want to talk about, because when I think about you, Greg, I think about just the marketing machine that you are. But before we get to that, let's just help our listeners understand. So, what is it that you provide now? Like, if you were to explain your business,
Sure.
how what is the category? What is it like?
Well, I created a market space which didn't exist when I started my business in 1991, which was professional water feature product line. So the stuff that I use out of garbage cans and cattle troughs and engineering and MacGyvering up stuff in my own backyard, I patented those and began in 1995 selling those to other contractors. And because I was a contractor myself, I could talk the talk of a contractor. Before 1995, no one had ever made a commercial skimmer for a pond, or even a biofalls, which is a filter that filters the water and becomes a waterfall. And so my success, or our success as a team, came from us actually, and to this day, we're still the only full-line aquatic manufacturer in the world that builds ponds full-time.
So, your major clients at the time were contractors, other people who would build backyard ponds or water features. So you would do that as well at Aquascape, but then you also had all of the equipment, all of the parts and pieces that they would use to build that.
Yeah, so basically what happened was I sat down with a family friend who was actually a partner at Arthur Andersen, not on the accounting side, what eventually became Accenture, which was the consulting side. And we went through the most valuable thing that Aquascape had, or I had at the time, and it was knowledge. We had a unique product and a specific knowledge on how to do something, and he said, you should franchise your idea. So I spent all my profits from 1993 and 1994 and actually incorporated my business as a franchise with FranCorp out of Indiana. Had big documents and tried to go out and sell this concept to landscapers to have them buy a franchise where they would give us a royalty and we'd sell them the products, and then they would make money, we would make money. And I remember I had 4 or 5 interested parties. I narrowed it down to one. We agreed that he would purchase the first franchise, ironically, in Columbus, Ohio. That's where I was finishing up my degree. And when we went to shake on it, he said, great, okay. And I was going to sell it to him at $25,000, which was half of the cost of a new franchise. We had a preliminary determined $50,000 per territory. And before I let go of his hand, he squeezed it a little harder, said that does include your vehicle too, right? And I had a Ford F-150, probably a $15,000 truck.
Yeah.
So basically what he was doing was he was negotiating at the last minute when it was kind of past the deal, trying to get the most. And I realized right then and there instantaneously that this deal was not going to happen. And in the next couple of days I came to grips with landscape contractors don't have $50,000 sitting in their bank accounts ready to purchase business opportunities. Right. I went back to the same family friend who was a consultant at Arthur Andersen, and I said, I really screwed the pooch. This is just a big mistake, and everything sucks in my life, yada, yada, yada. And he looked at me and he said, well, you're going to have he looked at me and said exactly what every person that is complaining does not want to hear. And he said, this will be a great lesson for you. Yeah. And true to form, 6 months later, much to my chagrin from that original conversation, he proved right, because I took that same concept of a franchise system and made it a franchise system without a franchise fee. And that was really the genius of Aquascape, because in April of 1995, I mailed out 26,000 catalogs to a rented list from Dun & Bradstreet to landscape contractors, architects, and garden centers. And that year, I sold $424,000 of installations in Chicago. Wow. And $181,000 of mail order filters and pumps and pond kits to other landscapers across the nation. But the writing was on the wall, because the next year I sold 1.9 million. And then 4, and then 7, and then eventually became an Inc. 500 company, supplying the knowledge and products and unique approach that we had for decorative water features to other people. So what almost was my bane and my end, which was the franchise, concept of selling it, became the silver lining, because that was really where Aquascape took off, was teaching other people how to be successful running their pond business. And instead of trying to give it away or sell it exclusively, I gave it away for free, and our business grew.
Tell me about the space that we're in right now.
Aqualand.
Yeah.
Well, Aqualand was my dream of a workplace utopia. I moved Justin every 2 years, literally every 2 years I moved, from 1991 until 2005.
Because growth was just going beyond expectations.
Yeah, we rented, but I always dreamed of a workplace utopia, and my idea of a workplace utopia was filled with ponds and playground. So the whole third floor is dedicated to fun and fitness. I believe those who sweat together stick together, and I learned this playing football, not in a classroom. So it's got an indoor soccer arena, a basketball court, a full weight room, racquetball court, and a spa. So it's got a hot tub, sauna, steam room, and even a cold plunge, which is 52 degrees, and it's fun to see people get in there for the first time. Aqualand is a 256,000 square foot green building. So it's a silver LEED, Leaders in Energy Efficient Design building, which means it's more environmentally friendly. We're a green company. Obviously, we're doing water features. And the building here itself it houses basically all of our U.S. team. It's our international headquarters. We have an office up in Canada that handles Canadian distribution, and I've got about a dozen teammates up there. This is where we ship all of our products out to our distributors and our dealers, and basically all the products come from, we're a virtual manufacturer, meaning that all of the products are our tooling. So they either come, if they're big and bulky, it's domestic. If it's small and electronic, it's international. It's usually in Asia. So that comes in here, we assemble it, and we ship it out to our dealers all over the U.S. And the office and warehouse in Canada handles Canadian distribution. And about 95% of our sales are North America, and about 5% of our sales are international. There's a lot of opportunity internationally, but it's a challenge to break into new markets that are more established than your own. Water features really got their start pretty much with Aquascape in the States. 26 years ago, so 26 year in business. In England and Europe, it's been far more established, but it's a paradigm shift. They don't do the same technology that we use over here, so it's a challenge to break into that marketplace. But there's so obviously a lot of opportunity. We do things bigger here,
yeah.
And I would like to say better, but that would be a very Trumpish term, so I won't use that.
So, but I'm looking at this pond. So, if I could go out right now and jump in and swim in it, right?
Yeah, this is a swim pond. So it's a recreation pond is actually what we call them, and this is very much more practical than a swimming pool in cold weather climates like Chicago. So 365 days a year, you can enjoy looking at the rock work and the landscaping for 6 months out of the year. A swimming pool you can only use for 3 months out of the year. So a recreation pond, you could fish it, you could swim it, you could just sit back and enjoy a glass of wine by it or a beer. And this is what we actually recommend people in Illinois and cold climates to get a rec pond versus a swimming pool for most people, because swimming pools you can only use for a very brief time. Rec ponds are nice 365 days a year. You can ice skate it in the winter.
Yeah, that's true. So again, this place is amazing, and then I know a few years back you had a pretty major setback here. So
right when the economy was probably at its lowest and ready to rebound, 2011, on February 14th, Valentine's Day 2011, we had gotten about 10 days earlier, Chicago had been hit with one of our largest snowfalls ever, 24 inches, and then we had a 50-degree temperature swing, and the roof, our green roof that was also sloped, ended up getting an ice dam on it, and when all of that snow that landed on the roof melted, the water built up over our covered parking, and it collapsed a 700-foot span of our covered parking, which also twisted the steel inside of our main building. And this building needed, thank God it happened on a Sunday, this building needed to be evacuated, and we basically were out of business for the next week. Our building was condemned, we couldn't get to our servers, we couldn't even communicate with our customers because we couldn't access phone lines. And it took me 11 months and $13 million to rebuild it. But once again, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I watched the first week after it happened, 5 teammates left. They said they didn't sign up for this, but everybody else that stayed here really just doubled down and did not only their jobs, but also the jobs of relocating into 3 different buildings in 3 different cities.
Yeah.
It was 14 days before we made our first shipment out. And we were back up and running, and for 11 months we operated out of 3 different locations as this building got rebuilt. So
It's incredible.
yeah, it was an experience that I would never want to go through again, but it actually solidified and gelled my love for our team here, because I really saw the people that stepped up to the plate. I could not do it alone. And I remember leaving right after Justin had happened. I had to go 3 days. I was a keynote speaker at a conference, and I remember one of my guys saying to me, he goes, "Don't worry, Panga, you go do what you got to do. We'll take care of things here." And they did. And they really literally rebuilt not only the building, but also the business, because we came back stronger than we were before.
Yeah, we had dinner, you probably don't remember this, right around then, and I remember telling my wife, I'm like, gosh, I hope Greg's going to be okay, and it was just like, you're just stiff upper lip, like it's going to work out, I'm sure you, inside, you're probably a bit anxious.
When I saw the building on the ground, I collapsed and just, literally to my knees and just sobbed. I thought our business was done, and that's when my team picked me up. And then we picked each other up, and I did my thing, they did their thing, and we're stronger. Adversity can pull a company together or a company apart. It can pull a family together or a family apart, a church together, a team together, or apart. And this adversity pulled our team together, and we're better because of it.
I really admire Greg's commitment to creating a positive company culture. For as long as I've known him, he's been a student of understanding how teams can work better.
And when you walk into the space, you can instantly feel that this is not a typical workplace environment.
The first job of a CEO is to guide and guard the company culture. That's my belief. There's nothing more important than a strong culture. And this culture is me. It's fun. It's ponds. It's sports. Part of the fun. Fun is one of our 4 company values, as is character. We don't ever want to have somebody that works here that they jeopardize their character to work here. As team. It's all about team for me. As is winning. So our 4 company culture is character, team, winning, and fun. In that order. We don't want anybody on our team that has to jeopardize their character to be on our team. We want to be able to win, and we want to be able to have fun. And if something isn't fun but we're still winning, then obviously it needs to be done. It's work that needs to be accomplished. So every month we celebrate those values by the teammates electing or nominating their peers that represent those 4 company goals. Whatever somebody did that demonstrated high character or created fun around here for us or our customers. And then we give out the bobble thumbs, which is a thumbs up pond guy. And this last, about 2 years ago, I guess, we added a new company value, which is the Bonehead Award. And it's a self-nominated award, and it's a fat, cigarette-smoking, martini-holding pond guy trophy. And it's whoever did the biggest goof up for the last month. And as much as we like to point things out, the person has to point it out for themselves if they're going to do it. So when everybody wins a Bonehead Award, we all celebrate together. And because, mistakes happen in business, and as long as we want to laugh about it and have fun, that's kind of the key thing. That's one of our goals. So I like it because those 4 core values are represented are reinforced every single month in our teammate meetings, where we share everything. Part of the culture is this is a big family, and so we're going to tell you the wins and the misses, and whether we're behind budget or below budget, and what's going on with the company. And anybody can ask anything, because this is all about everybody knowing what's going on. And every month is not a love fest, because there's some challenging months that we have.
Yeah.
But we talk about it and we work through it, and there's no secrets here. And our first goal as a business is to help our customers succeed at building, selling, and retailing water features. So our motive, our modus operandum, is to help our customers succeed in their businesses. And so we built this tribe, we call them, which is certified Aquascape contractors, people that are committed to installing water features with our principles and our products. And it's a big, basically, community of people that are there to support one another. So it's sad for me to think of people who are not certified Aquascape contractors who are lone wolves in the marketplace. They might be good pond builders and they might be working in a particular area, but they don't really have the support mechanism that we have through the Certified Aquascape Contractor Network. So my main kind of passion is to help other people succeed, and if you help other people get what they want, you're going to end up getting what you want. I was able to build the world's largest business of its kind because I put my customers first and figured out how to help them become successful. And when they succeed, you succeed, and so that's kind of the principle behind it. And what's cool is the people that are in the Certified Aquascape Contractor Network have taken that kind of mantra onto themselves, and you get the best way to learn something is to teach it. And so when somebody's on there talking about a situation that they're dealing with, somebody else will come on there and say, hey, here's how we dealt with that, or here's how we looked at that. And they're actually becoming better at what their game is because they're helping someone else. And so being a teacher, really, the rising tide lifts all ships. And so the people that are part of the network, literally their businesses grow together because they're all helping each other.
Let's shift gears really quick. Talk to me about reality television.
You want to bring up that swear word. Hey, how you doing, buddy?
What is he doing? What is he doing? He's talking to him. Look at
Hey, if it wasn't for turtles, you might not even have a job today.
Yeah, good point, good point.
When I was 12 years old, I needed a place to house my pet turtles, and my mom and dad let me build a pond in the backyard. And that pond became my classroom, which today is why Aquascape is here.
Yeah. So tell me how that came upon, because you were a part of, was it a season or 2 seasons?
We had 1 season of Pond Stars. They picked the name, not me. Not Pawn Stars, Pond Stars on Nat Geo Wild.
What would you have called it if you could, by the way?
The Pond Guys.
Pond Guys, okay.
Would have been maybe one of our first choices. Someone said Koi Boys, but it didn't kind of ring for us. The thing for me, Justin, about that was it was quite an honor to have a reality TV show based off of your passion and your business. But what I quickly realized was it wasn't based around my passion, my business. It was based on somebody else's agenda and their scripting of reality television. So I was handed a script.
Whoa. You mean reality television scripted?
Well, all I can speak about for sure is that our show was scripted, and it was handed a script every day of how things would go down. And let's just say that the director had never built a pond before, and I had never been directed before, at least in school, and I was never really good at taking direction. So, unless it was on a football field with a man I respected.
Yeah.
So we had a 1 season. It was $250,000 per episode. We did 12 water features. I learned a lot. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I learned how Hollywood works and television works, and we went from a year of being filmed and doing that to making our own show, Pond Squad, the Aquascape Pond Squad, that we flipped up on YouTube. And we did that for a season afterwards, and I can honestly say that it was a breath of fresh air to be working with our Certified Aquascape Contractor Network and doing episodes of the Pond Squad versus being directed on someone else's Pond Stars. So,
But did you enjoy it at all?
Well, I enjoyed working with my guys. I enjoyed being in the field with them. And I enjoyed what I learned from it, which was, that I don't want to basically be directed anymore. So we may or may not do reality again. We certainly have been approached multiple times. I'll just ask to be a co-producer if I'm ever. As long as I'm part, I don't need to be in charge, which is, believe it or not, I've been married for 20 years, so that's definitely the case. I don't need to be in charge, but I need to be included. And that's what I found out about that. When I was directed, I didn't enjoy it, but to be included and being part of the process, that's what I'm about. And Justin, we also landed our largest job in the history of our company because of that show. It was interpreted into 7 different languages, broadcast in 50 countries, and we ended up landing a job in Colombia, South America, believe it or not, Villa Vicencio, which is not an easy place to get to. It's 19 hours to get from door to door. And we ended up selling a $2.3 million water feature for a brand new shopping mall that was going down there.
Wow.
And the owner flew up to Chicago. He was a big Pond Stars fan and toured some of our actual projects that we had done for the Shed Aquarium, the Lincoln Park Zoo, some of the planetariums that we'd worked for. So he ended up hiring us, and we ended up going down there and spending 6 months in Colombia, South America, and literally the jungles of Colombia, South America, carving out of the jungles this new shopping mall, and we put this water feature in, which to this day is the biggest single project we've ever done.
Wow, that's amazing. And that was on Nat Geo Wild, right?
Yep, Pond Stars on Nat Geo Wild. You can get it on iTunes now, or you can get Aquascape Pond Squad on YouTube.
Yeah, we'll put links on both of those in the show notes.
This week, we are finally replacing Aqualand's old turtle rescue pond with a state-of-the-art critter pond. It's about time.
Where do you find your inspiration? Where do you go to recharge? Like,
Well, I do recharge. I was at the Queen concert last night. Honestly, I get my inspiration on seeing other people succeed. So when I see opportunities for our team to go into new areas, or for people to move seats on the bus, that inspires me. When I get messages like I did this morning from a customer that says, my family never used our yard, now I can't keep the kids out of the pond in the yard, that's inspiring. So I recharge my batteries by talking to a customer and saying, I thought about quitting, and then I realized that you have the same issues that I do from one of your posts, and this is why I post, this is why I blog, this is why I video, this is why I'm doing this podcast, is maybe I could share a piece of advice that somebody else could apply, and when their building collapses, or whatever that would figuratively translate into their life, where they just keep going. You learn way more from the valleys than you do from the mountaintops in life. And if you give up when it's a valley, I don't know what you do. I've never given up, because I just always want to persevere, because I'm going to learn so much more when I get to the other side. I don't want to go through valleys, but I know inevitably when you go through them, you'll learn more than when everything's going great and you're on a peak.
Greg is a strong believer in real-world experience over classroom learning. He sees the rising cost of college to be a strong motivator to find alternative education methods.
Well, I guess my passion around a non-traditional path for education comes from the fact that the traditional education path didn't really serve me in my career, and if it wasn't for some incredible God-given confidence and a great football coach and a little bit of athletic ability that allowed me to connect and relate to other people, I was definitely a poor student, and I was given a right brain more than a left brain. I have a creative side more than I do an analytical or a mathematical side, and I had a math tutor from the time I was in 4th grade, and society really told me, you're stupid. No one ever told me, because you're going to love turtles, you're going to build the world's largest organization, and you're going to be able to basically take a hobby and make it a profession. And I see so many kids today, almost every kid that I talk to believes that the answer to success in life is to be intelligent in a traditional sense of what a college or a high school or an elementary school teaches, which is how to fill in the blanks and how to be a traditional student. I was a non-traditional student. I got the second highest grade in the 7th grade science fair. It was the first time I ever achieved anything outside of success in school besides gym class, and it was because I got to build something with my own 2 hands, and it was metallurgy and their everyday uses, and I got to go interview a foreman at Bethlehem Steel in Indiana. I thought it was the coolest job. It was straight out of Rudy, molted metal and stuff, and I was like, wow, I'm actually good at something besides sports, and it was because I was passionate about it. Well, I'm passionate about turtles, I'm passionate about nature, I'm passionate about people and success, and when I talk to kids and I say, just because you get great. If you get good grades and you're a good student, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you don't, there is alternative perceptions and paths that you can take. And so I've got a kid here working for me right now that told me, he was a 2-year kid that worked in the summers pulling weeds and taking care of our aquariums and stuff. He said, my dream job is to work at Aquascape, so I'm going to go away to Iowa State University and get an environmental science degree so I can learn how to work here and be successful. I said, well, why don't you just keep doing what you're doing, and I'll give you more responsibilities, and I'll mentor you. And you could save $36,000 a year, and that's kind of the key. College is so important for growing up and life experiences, but when you and I went to college, Ohio State was $7,600. My first year in 1988, Ohio State was $7,600 out-of-state tuition. Now it's $40,000. It's one thing to grow up when you're paying $10,000 a year. It's another thing to grow up when you're paying $50,000. And so the path that society says you need to be successful down. I'm a lifelong student. I am continuously and constantly learning and reading. But there's this thing called the internet that didn't exist in 1988 that you can learn from. There's people that you can meet that will mentor you and pour into you. But you need ambition, you need drive, you need to know how to work with others, you need to persevere. Those are things that I learned on an athletic field, not in a classroom.
To close out the interview, we asked Greg about the one relationship he thought was the most impactful to his journey in business. His response was really interesting.
The reality is that I have to talk about the person who influenced my life more than any other, outside of maybe my mom or my dad, but, in reality, probably more than any other because it was a third party. And that was my high school football coach. And he lived a life of conviction. He was a man that walked in his faith, and I watched that and I observed that. And he took a kid who was not a stellar student and subsequently was a class clown and kind of a goofball and, junior high and, kind of a little mischievous, nothing really bad. And he shaped me up and shipped me out. And he said, if you stick with me and follow my direction, he told this to all the kids, but I believed what he was saying. And he made us a champion. We were a state champion in football, which is the highest of highs. And it was because people followed his leadership. And then I watched the lowest of lows, where guys who had the same opportunity to follow his leadership rejected it. And I watched that team that was ranked number 1 in the state my senior year go 5-4 and not even make the playoffs because we had a bunch of Me Too players. And that was one of the things that I learned about, a winning culture. We had a wonderful culture when people were following what the coach was trying to do. And when the coach didn't, that culture changed. And we became known as the class of partiers, where it was a bunch of Me Too people. So the most influential man in my world, the man that I respect the highest, was the man who showed me the walk that I now follow and believed more in me. And I followed him, which was kind of good on me. I actually listened to what he said. He said jump, I would say jump, I would say how high. And he showed me what it was to be a winner. And to this day, most of what Aquascape does, I can trace back to the roots that I had in a very influential time in my life too. Yeah. 14, 15, 16, 17, where we created a culture here that's basically built off the culture that I saw represented on my high school football team.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having us out to your place, and you are absolutely always someone that I love to follow and listen to, and I know you always have an opinion on something too.
Not always the right one. That's when I just listen to my wife. So thanks, Justin, for having me out. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Big thanks to Greg Wittstock for his time and the crash course in the recreational water features business. If you want to learn more about Greg or Aquascape, visit aquascapeinc.com or check them out on Facebook. Greg is always working the Facebook Live.
Design Of is brought to you by the studio of Rule 29. Our sponsor for this episode is O'Neill Printing, a Phoenix, Arizona-based commercial printer and one of Rule 29's closest partners. To learn more about O'Neill Printing's capabilities, including offset, digital, large format, mailing fulfillment, and more, visit o'neillprint.com. O'Neill Print, made to impress.
A big thanks to Sleeping at Last for providing the soundtrack to Design Of. Sleeping at Last is in the middle of an incredible song series based on the Enneagram that's well worth a listen. Check it out at sleepingatlast.com.
And finally, Design Of's audio engineer is Steve Wick. You know, Wills, Steve is like sitting on that park bench in a perfectly calm day and listening to that wonderful water feature that just makes you feel all zen-like.
Ah, yes.
Good morning, Gil. I said good morning, Gil.
We've got one more episode of Season 3, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to launching into 2018 with more stories about people and process. Along the way, be sure to follow us on Twitter at DesignOfPodcast.
And if you're liking the podcast, we really would appreciate your rating on iTunes. It really helps.
Thanks, everybody.